If you see me doing this, it's because I'm way over here on the screen. It's because I'm looking at the deer feeder. There's 3 out there right now.
So you're peacefully watching deer eat during a meeting?
They're wearing it out over there right now.
How are you expecting to get all worked up and angry about something?
And right now too, all these turtles keep coming up in my yard and laying eggs.
Who?
Turtles, snappers.
Not to interrupt the turtle conversation, but we hit 7 o'clock. So we're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. A couple of announcements before I ask for an approval of the agenda. I just want to make sure that the public at home understands that when we get to public comment, we will wait for about 60 seconds. There is a little bit of a delay when we ask for public comment when you're a bit from your ability to call in and get our attention. So when you see us sitting here waiting after a public comment request, that's what's going on. We want to ensure that we don't miss anybody who wants to engage. And with that, can I have a motion? I don't have any changes to the agenda as it has been published. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda as it has been published?
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner McKinley and a second from Commissioner Coleman. Are there any questions, changes, or additions to the commission from to the agenda from the commission? Okay. Hearing none. Do we have any public comment on the agenda? Seeing none. And we have a new method tonight on your screen. Can they see it, Dallas? On your screen, you can see in writing each commissioners. We're going to go in the order that's on the screen. And before I ask for a vote, is that what you were going to ask, Ms. Judy?
Yes.
Before I ask for a vote, I just wanted to point that out. We're going to be going in the order that is listed on that screen. So Commissioner Coleman, you vote yay or nay to approve the agenda?
Yay.
Commissioner McKinley?
Yay.
Commissioner Farnsworth?
Yay.
Commissioner Martin?
Aye.
Commissioner Norfleet?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. And I'd like to welcome Pastor Lowry from Mount Zura Full Gospel Baptist Church, who is Zooming in with us tonight to offer tonight's invocation. I'm going to ask you to either bow your head or stand. If you do choose to stand, please, after the invocation, remain standing as we say the Pledge of Allegiance. And Pastor Lowry, welcome, sir.
Thank you, sir. And greetings to all of you who are listening tonight as we have our time of invocation. Oh, Lord God, as we stand or sit or bow in your presence, we acknowledge you as our Father, as our God, and as our Creator. Lord, we understand as we commence and continue to do the business at hand, without you, we cannot do anything. You are the very breath that we breathe. And so, Lord, we ask for your wisdom. We ask for your understanding. We ask for your direction in helping us as mere men and women to do our due diligence as it pertains to the business at hand. Father, help us to be men and women of integrity, that we will execute, Lord God, to the best of our abilities and with the wisdom, with the knowledge, and with the understanding that you've given to us. As we conduct this business of this city, I pray, Father, for Newberry and its surrounding community as a growing community. Father, I pray for every resident. I pray, Lord God, for our children. I pray for our schools, even though they may be closed and having virtual school now. But I pray for the teachers, the parents who are now homeschooling their children. I pray, Father, for those fathers as well. And Lord, we just ask simply that you will bless this city, that we will be a town, that we will be a city, that we will be a people that you are pleased with. Forgive us of our sins, past, present, and future. Now, God, again, I ask your blessings upon this meeting on tonight, on each commissioner, upon the mayor, and all who join. Lord God, I pray that you bless this city in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Lowry, for that invocation. I also want to publicly thank you for your participation in the National Day of Prayer and for all the prayer and guidance you've given me through this situation that we're in. Thank you, Pastor. Now, if you would
You're
please
welcome.
rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
Allegiance
to
to
the
the
flag
flag
of the
of
United
the
States
United States of America
to the
and
republic,
to the republic for which it stands,
one
a
nation,
nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you again, Pastor Lowry.
You're welcome.
We have no presentations tonight, so that's going to take us right to public announcements. We always set aside a couple of minutes in the beginning for any members of the public to bring anything to our attention that you'd like. These are 2-minute announcements. They're of the non-controversial kind, and we'll give a few seconds here to make sure anybody who wants to give a comment can. Members of the public who are in. Okay, we have a chat from Marlon Day. I'll go ahead and read it so everybody can. Oh, Marlon, you're with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, go ahead. You're on.
The library on Wednesday, we're going to be opening for curbside service. We're going to be open Monday through Saturday from 9:30 to 5. People place their items on hold. When you get to the library, just give us a call. We'll check the items out to you. We'll come out, check your ID, and then put the items in the back seat of the car or in the trunk of the car. And if you have books out that you'd like to return, you can drop them off in the book drops. All the book drops are now open.
All right. Thank you, Marlon. Anything else?
That's all I have.
Thank you. Other members of the public for public comment.
Mr. Mayor, I didn't see any.
Okay. Thank you, Dallas.
I have a question for Marlon. Did he say how they alert the library that they are there to pick them up?
Marlon, are you still with us?
Yes, I'm here. When you come in to pick up the holds, when you get to the parking lot, just give us a call. At that point, we'll pull up your record, check the items out to you, and then bring them out to your car.
Okay. What's the number there?
472-1135. And we'll have that posted on the side of the building so that people can see the number and the instructions.
Okay, post it.
Thank you, Marlon. As always, you're doing a great job over there.
Glad to be open.
Any other members of the public? Give it just a few more seconds. Okay, seeing none, we will move to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as it was published?
So moved.
I have a motion
Second.
from Commissioner Farnsworth, a second from Commissioner Martin. Commissioner Coleman, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner McKinley,
Aye.
Commissioner Farnsworth,
Aye.
Commissioner Martin,
Aye.
Commissioner Norfleet.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously, and that will take us, we have no public hearings and ordinances. It'll take us to our first agenda item, which is Resolution 2020-11. Mr. Attorney, can I go ahead and get you to read that resolution into the record for us, and then we'll put it on the floor for discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Resolution 2020-11, amending Resolution 2019-16, Resolution 2018-19, Resolution 2017-14, and Resolution 2017-17. A resolution of the City of Newberry, Florida, appointing members to the Planning and Zoning Board of the City of Newberry, Florida, establishing calendar year appointment terms, repealing all resolutions in conflict, and providing an effective date.
Okay, before we go any further, it's been brought to my attention that we have written the people who scored at the highest into the resolution. You guys still have to vote on that. You all scored all of the candidates. The top scores were Jessica Baker holds her seat. Naeem is going to take Walt Boyer's seat. And then if the board wishes to appoint an alternative or an alternate, it would be Janice Smith, who would simply be there in case a board member gets sick, somebody can't fulfill. You'd already have established who that person is. So, Mr. Attorney, what do we need to do since the resolution that you just read? I guess if everyone is okay with going with the scores, and the resolution you just read is perfectly fine. If anyone has wants to contest or argue for someone other than that, then we would need to go back and address the resolution that the attorney just read. Is that right, Rich?
That is correct, Mr. Mayor. And then a motion in that case could be made passing the resolution subject to the proposed modifications to it.
Okay. So does anyone wish to make a plea for someone who didn't reach into the top of the scoring, or is the commission good with accepting the results of the ballots?
I'm fine.
Okay. Just a head nod right now would be fine. Because then we can leave the resolution as it has been read, correct? Okay. And that would put an alternate of Ms. Smith there. So if we have somebody that drops out, it'd be fine. We'd already have selected that alternate. Okay, so we have the resolution read. If anyone wants to go ahead and make a motion at this point, we'll put it on the floor for discussion, then open it up to public comment.
Move to approve.
I have a motion from Commissioner Coleman,
Second.
a second from Commissioner Farnsworth. So the motion on the floor is to accept Jessica Baker holds her seat, Naeem moves into Mr. Boyer's seat, and we appoint Ms. Smith as an alternate in case we ever need her. Is there any comment from the commission on the motion on the floor? Okay, hearing none, we're going to move to public comment. And again, we're going to give a few seconds to make sure we don't miss anybody.
Hello?
Okay, do we have anybody, Dallas? No? Okay, well, and since we don't have anyone coming in from the public, we will go ahead and slowly move to a vote. Commissioner Coleman? Unmute yourself, Commissioner Coleman.
Aye.
Commissioner McKinley?
Aye.
Commissioner Farnsworth?
Aye.
Commissioner Martin?
Aye.
Commissioner Norfleet?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. And that takes us to the Little Red Schoolhouse. We have a repair contract modification, and I believe Jamie is going to take the lead on this one.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Welcome, Mr. Jones.
The item we're bringing before you this evening is we're requesting that you authorize the city manager to execute a contract modification, which is change order number 1 with the Rose Group LLC and the amount of $28,000 for additional masonry repairs to the Little Red Schoolhouse. As you may recall, about the first of the year, we executed a contract with the Rose Group to do some tuck pointing and brick replacement at the Little Red Schoolhouse. In the last few months, they've been working on that, and they've determined with our concurrence that there's additional repairs required to prevent water intrusion into the building. And so we solicited pricing on that. It's attached in your packet. For additional tuck pointing on the north and east side of the building, basically, instead of doing patches, we would do the entire north facade and east facade, and replacing some concrete window sills with a new roll-lock brick seal, and to remove and rebuild the west chimney and match the chimney on the, it's actually the south chimney, and magic chimney on the north facade. So that change order is in the amount of $28,000, and staff is recommending the commission authorize the city manager to execute this change order, and I'm available for any questions.
Okay, questions from the commission? Commissioner Martin.
Jamie, does the change of the concrete wood sills have any dramatic effect on the otherwise historic relevance of the window sills for any reason?
No, it actually takes it back to its original historic construction. Evidently, the windows have been changed at some point in time, and the existing row lock was removed, and somebody had poured a mud seal. When water comes down the face of the window, it actually traps on that and intrudes into the building. So this would actually restore the historic facade back to its original construction.
Okay, great.
Other commission comments, questions? Okay, hearing none, is anyone ready to make a motion?
So moved.
City manager, I have a motion from Commissioner Coleman,
Second.
a second from Commissioner Farnsworth. I have a motion properly seconded on the floor. Is there any questions or comments from the commission on the motion on the floor? Okay, seeing none, we'll move to public comment. Does the public have any comments on the change order for Little Red Schoolhouse that the commission has moved to authorize the city manager to approve? You have a few seconds to make sure we all chime in. Okay, Dallas, so do we have anybody with their hand raised in the waiting room or anything?
No, sir.
Okay, seeing no public comment, we will move to a vote from the commission. Commissioner Coleman,
Aye.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Aye.
Commissioner Farnsworth,
Aye.
Commissioner Martin,
Aye.
Commissioner Norfleet.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. And that takes us to our solid waste contract amendment request. And Mr. Manager, I believe you're going to be taking the lead on this item, if I can find you on my screen. There you are. And you're next to me here in City Hall, so 6 feet away.
I'm going to try to speak loudly so that the audio can hear me through your microphone. If that doesn't work, I'll turn mine on.
Can everybody hear the manager okay?
You hear me just fine?
I'm getting head nods.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, as per the staff report, Waste Pro of Florida is our solid waste provider and has been for 15 years or so, but the current contract is 2 years old. Their current contract requires them to post a performance bond with the city annually in the amount of $250,000. That was calculated based on a loose estimate of what 6 months revenues collected for solid waste is. Waste Pro contacted staff and requested that we either we consider reducing or eliminating the performance bond requirement, citing their long tenure with the city, their strong financial position, and just their overall performance as a good partner with the city. They're transmitted a letter that is included as backup, kind of stating their case. Their key accounts manager, Dana Miller, transmitted the letter, Nathan, the district manager, transmitted the letter. And I believe that Nathan and Dana are both online. So if they would like to comment to the city commission prior to the discussion or as part of discussion, maybe they can wave and Dallas can get them into the meeting. But Mr. Mayor, that concludes my comments. There is just a reference from the contract that shows what the performance surety language is. Staff's recommendation is that we consider it. Staff has no heartburn with either a reduction in the performance bond requirement or an elimination of the performance bond requirement.
Okay, Ms. Miller.
Good evening, commissioners. Good evening, mayor, city manager.
Good
Dana
evening.
Miller. Good evening. Dana Miller with Waste Pro of Florida. I believe I'm also joined by Nate Frischkorn, who is our division manager of our office in Alachua. City manager covered it. I'm not sure how much more I can add. He nailed it. But we were requesting, as city manager said, our current performance bond is $250,000. And we are requesting either a reduction of at least down to 125,000 or a complete elimination of that bond. It does have to be renewed annually. And as city manager referred, we base that on our long-term community partnership with the city of Newberry, our strong financial standing in the industry. We are still privately owned. We are still owned by the same person who started the company. He has a 100-year plan for the company. There is no intention of selling or going public. Over all the several years that we've been servicing the city of Newberry, we believe that we've shown that we're not just the garbage men and women, but we are definitely community partners, and we are very involved in the city of Newberry, whether it's a Watermelon Festival or West Fest or Main Street Festival or even small service requests that come just from behind the scenes and going above and beyond. And we just feel like we've proven that we're not going anywhere, that we're a strong service provider to the city, and we would humbly ask your consideration of our request.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. Mr. Nathan, would you like to add anything to what either the manager or Ms. Miller have said?
I think they both covered it nicely. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, in my mind, I was kind of thinking about this issue, and it seems a little reminiscent to the utility deposit refund program that the commission instituted a few years back, where if you had a long-standing history with the city, we wanted to put some of that money back into our businesses' pockets. There is a risk, but the risk is mitigated by all of the factors that both the manager and Ms. Miller have laid out. So does the commission have any questions, comments for the manager or Ms. Miller? Commissioner Martin.
I actually wrote the exact same thing down, that it was similar to the commercial deposit, so I don't have any problem. And I'd be happy to make a motion to reduce that completely at the appropriate time.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Martin. Any other questions or comments from the commission? Commissioner Norfleet?
Is Waste Pro paid monthly, or how's that? Can you kind of explain to us a little bit how they're paid?
Mr. Manager, you want to take that?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. We remit our checks to Waste Pro on a monthly basis. Actually, it kind of goes both ways. We collect for their solid waste service for the customers in our utility service area, and we remit to them their portion of the fee. We retain our portion of the fee for customers outside that service area. They remit a check to us for our portion of that fee, which is simply the franchise fee portion, and I think for mailing costs, cover our mailing costs. So it's a monthly payment, to answer your question.
So they're getting paid behind after they've done the service, essentially, right?
Yes, they get paid in arrears for service provided. And I would also, just chime in. We figured that this performance bond would carry us through 6 months of paying for solid waste services. But since we collect most of the fees from our customers, probably 80% of the fees we are collecting, and we remit a check to the solid waste service provider, and we could no way stand going for any period of time longer than a week or two without solid waste services. It's really unrealistic that we would ever keep 6 months worth of a performance bond, because you're only allowed to keep what is an actual expense or cost to you. probably the worst case that we could come up with would be a month, potentially 2. But again, we collect the revenues from our customers, not so much from Waste Pro. So you can make a case that the security blanket it is not wholly necessary.
I'd be fine with eliminating it altogether with Commissioner Martin.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from the commission? Ms. Judy, did we already get a motion or are we still in comments?
We do not have a motion or second.
Okay. Is anyone ready to make a motion? Commissioner Martin?
I make a motion to eliminate the performance bond we're currently holding with Waste Pro.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Commissioner Coleman. So I have a motion to eliminate it completely and a second from Commissioner Coleman. Any questions from the commission on the motion on the floor? Seeing none, we'll move to public comment. Again, we have about a 20-second delay to get the number up onto YouTube. So we're going to sit here for just a little bit, make sure that we have ample time for the public to chime in here. Okay, Dallas, do we have anybody with their hand up? Okay, we don't have any members of the public with us yet. So we are going to move to commission votes and we'll start with Commissioner Coleman. Commissioner.
Aye.
Aye. Commissioner McKinley.
Aye.
Commissioner Farnsworth.
Aye.
Commissioner Martin.
Aye.
Commissioner Norfleet.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Manager, would you like to say anything?
Yeah, I just wanted to review administratively what's going to happen from here. We're going to request that the city attorney's office prepare an amendment to the contract. And once we see that, we'll put it back on the commission agenda for, no, the commission could authorize me to execute now. So I'd suggest that we include that, maybe a second vote to give me the authorization to go ahead and execute that amendment to the contract. But we need to go ahead and follow through and make sure we amend the contract and get it executed by both parties.
Okay, would it be quicker to take a vote now or just bring it back and vote on it later? Sounds like everybody's kind of on the same page here. You want to just vote on it now and move it forward? Or do you want to see it before you vote on it? Let's do a head nod. Do you want to vote on it now? Vote on it now. Okay, so let's I'll accept a secondary, well, we just need another motion to authorize the manager to execute the contract after review with the city attorney. Do I hear that motion? I have a motion from Commissioner McKinley.
Second.
So moved.
So moved. I have a motion from Commissioner McKinley, a second from Commissioner Martin. Any questions or comments on the motion on the floor from the commission? Okay, if not, we're going to move to public comment. The motion on the floor is to authorize the city manager to review this contract with our city attorney and execute it as soon as it is complete without bringing it back to the dais. Give a few seconds for those who wishing to call in. Okay. Dallas, do we have anybody in the public with their hand raised? All right. We'll give just a couple more seconds. And Commissioner Coleman.
Aye.
Commissioner McKinley.
Aye.
Commissioner Farnsworth.
Aye.
Commissioner Martin.
Aye.
Commissioner Norfleet.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Miller, Nathan, for joining us here tonight. We appreciate your service and all of the community involvement that Waste Pro offers to us. We certainly do appreciate you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, commissioners and city manager. We greatly appreciate your consideration on this. And as always, look forward to many, many more years of partnering with y'all. And
We do.
please stay safe and healthy. Continue.
You do as well. Thank you. All right, that's going to move us to United States Department of Agriculture Farmers Market Grant Application. Dallas, are you going to take us through this item? Mr. Manager, you're going to take us through this item.
Yes, yes,
All right.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, I apologize to interrupt, but can I go ahead and read the resolution in at this time?
Yes, I thought you were going to tell me I didn't have a vote on the last one. Go ahead.
Resolution number 2020-18, a resolution of the city of Newberry, Florida, authorizing the city manager to make application to the United States Department of Agriculture for a farmers market promotional program, repealing all resolutions in conflict, providing an effective date.
Thank you, Rich. All right, now, Mike.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And the city attorney covered the recommended motion is to adopt that resolution. Staff received an opportunity for grant applications from the State Department of Agriculture, who's become a very good partner for us. They are continuously pushing information to us about these opportunities. So this is actually the second grant opportunity that we've looked at very hard in the last 3 months. This one is related to local food distribution or farmers market or regional food system partnership programs that are available. There's funding available. The staff's evaluation, we believe that the farmers market promotion program is best suited, and we have proposed partnering with Newberry Main Street to submit a grant application to USDA for the farmers market promotion program, somewhere in the range of $50,000 to $60,000. We haven't worked out all of the details, but we think that's kind of what we're looking at. And the deadline for that is May the 26th. So we can't wait till the next meeting to get this authorization. Newberry Main Street seems to be on board as a co-applicant. And we seek the commission's support in submitting this application.
Okay, questions or comments from the commissioners? Okay, if there are none, I'll entertain a motion at this time on resolution 2020-20.
Move to approve.
I have a
Second.
motion from Commissioner Farnsworth, a second from Commissioner Coleman. Okay, I have a motion to seek a grant in partnership with USDA or to apply for it. It's been properly seconded and moved. Are there any questions or comments from the commissioners on the motion on the floor? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move to public comment. And we'll give a few seconds for anyone watching to call in, chime in, and let us know what you think about in partnership with the Main Street organization seeking this grant for a farmer's market.
Mr. Mayor, we have a comment.
Okay.
This is Lisa Denny.
Ms. Lisa, welcome to the meeting. You have the floor.
Okay, I don't really have a whole lot to say. I just wanted to kind of reiterate that certainly Main Street is interested in doing, whatever we can do effectively to help move this forward as well.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us here tonight. Hope you're staying safe and healthy.
Yes, you as well.
Okay, we'll give a few more seconds for anybody else to call in. Okay, Dallas, do we have anybody with their hand raised?
No, sir.
Okay, then we will move to a vote. Commissioner Coleman,
Aye.
Commissioner McKinley,
Aye.
Commissioner Farnsworth,
Aye.
Commissioner Martin,
No.
Commissioner Norfleet,
Aye.
Motion passes 4-1 with Commissioner Martin in dissent. That will take us to COVID-19 update, along with resolution, I'm sorry, I think I said the last one was resolution 2020. I was skipping ahead. The last resolution that just passed was 2020-18. This is resolution 2020-20, which is the 8th extension of Newberry state of emergency. Mike, you want to take the update for us?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I'll be happy to. Just brief update. As most of you know, the governor on effective May 4th, which is last Monday, adopted the phase 1 safe, smart, step-by-step plan for Florida's recovery emergency order that relaxed restrictions on Floridians for certain activities in general public. That was followed by the counties. They amended their order as well to kind of reinforce the governor's order, and but it had a stipulation that residents wear face masks when in public, which was stricter than the state's requirement. And as we understand it, as staff understand it, the county has that prerogative. That was last week. Towards the end of the week, the governor announced that he was relaxing restrictions on barbers and salons so people can utilize those. That became effective today. And I understand at least one of our elected officials participated in that. And the county also amended part of their order to allow a modified use of public swimming pools. So that's kind of what's been going on for the last 2 weeks, public swimming pools. So with proper social distancing.
And we also understand that the governor extended his emergency order for 60 days today.
Correct. And current coronavirus positive counts in the state of Florida, we're pushing 40,000, but we are trending, when I say positively, the trends are that there are decreasing numbers of positive cases in the state of Florida, new cases, and within Alachua County, there are 320 cases that have been reported, but the number being reported each week is down slightly from the previous week. So we see that as a step in the right direction. The resolution 2020-20 requests that the city commission extend the city's state of emergency for an additional 7 days, consistent with the state of Florida's extension of their state of emergency and Alachua County's extension of their state of emergency. I'm available for questions.
Now, I know we have a lot of our constituents who have reached out to you guys and myself as well, specifically about the mask part of the ordinance. And I understand that you guys understand that Newberry's stance was always simply seeking clarity about whether or not Alachua County in this instance had the authority to go more stringent, since the governor expressly said in his press conference that he wanted counties to obey his order, except for the 3 that he gave the permission to go more stringent. So Newberry sought clarity. We did have an informal conversation, unless the manager has gotten something in the last couple of hours. We haven't actually received anything definitive in writing, but the informal opinion from Ashley Moody's office is that the county still, by the letter of the law right now, does have the authority to go more stringent, and they advised the city of Newberry to comply with the county's emergency order. There was a conversation about whether or not the governor would address this, and the answer was that the governor is looking at it, and if counties or municipalities seem to be getting too far out of line with his order, then he will write an order that deprives them of that ability, but he's hesitant to do that right now. So that's kind of where we are, where we stand on that. I've sat in on the meetings with Chair Hutchinson and the other mayors and managers. Pretty much all of the surrounding municipalities in Alachua County lack the resources to try to do anything in the way of enforcement on the mask ordinance other than education. So 8 out of the 9 municipalities are talking to businesses and talking to residents about why Alachua County believes that the medical expertise here warrants a mandate for masks. There are some, Gainesville backed off of it recently, but they went out of the gate fairly hard on this with threats of tickets and closing businesses down and those kinds of things. But they have walked back of that as well. And if you've watched any of the county meetings, you understand why. There's clearly some ADA concerns here. There's constitutional concerns here. Those have all been our ongoing conversations. Has never been what Newberry has focused on. Newberry has been focused on who has the authority here so that we know who we should be listening to. So I think as with everything with COVID-19, it's clear as mud. But I think that the community would like to hear your stance and your thoughts and kind of where you guys are at on this issue before we move on. So, now is appropriate time, I think, to have a conversation here publicly that people can kind of refer back to, if anybody is willing. Commissioner Martin, are you reaching for the mic?
Yeah. I'm struggling more and more every day to really be on board with any of the restrictions, primarily from a constitutional standpoint, but also from an effectiveness standpoint. I've tried to err on the side of making a decision based on the data, which is primarily what the governor was remarking that he wanted to make his statements on. Inside of this whole emotional bubble, I believe constitutional rights are on our side. I don't believe that our rights stop when an emergency declaration is declared. I'm actually not going to vote in favor of extending the emergency just as a way of sending a signal that I want the people of Newberry to be able to make their own decisions. Everybody's kind of working off of the same information at this point. There's nothing earth-shattering or new. The great thing about freedom is it lets people decide what is best for them and their family, and by extension, their business as well.
Thank you, Commissioner Martin. Anyone else like to comment? Commissioner Coleman?
Commissioner Martin pretty much stole all my thunder. I'm not going to vote for extending an emergency, which I think pretty much most of the citizens already know where I stand on this. So, I agree totally with Commissioner Martin on everything.
Well, while I understand the symbolic stance of voting out of the emergency order, and I'll get to you in 1 second, Commissioner McKinley, I just want to remind that this board has pretty uniformly and consistently taken the stance that we should speak with one voice here as a state. So I think it goes in a different direction if the governor extends the emergency order for 60 days. And our argument all along has been we need to be uniform here for us to then go in an opposite direction. That's just my comment. Commissioner McKinley?
Like Commissioner Martin and Coleman, I mean, I have mixed feelings on this. However, I think there's something that we need to consider. I do not want to tie the hands of our city manager and our mayor and the decisions that have to be made. I mean, I understand sending a message. I completely understand that. And nobody wants some of these, the order to be lightened up more than I do. I mean, I've got a, $3.5 million church sitting here that I can't have service in right now. And so, I understand the concerns and I have those concerns myself, but the reality is statewide, we're in a state of emergency. I just don't want to tie the hands of our city in the process of trying to send a message. And so maybe I need to be educated on this. If we vote down extending our state of emergency, what does that do to us as a city?
Well, I'm going to defer to the manager, but I would say that there could be, right now I think they've been negligible, but none of us have a crystal ball. So there could be financial ramifications in the future. And to me, I think it departs from the message that we have tried to impart to Alachua County, is that when the politicians get into the mix by saying, well, I like my experts better than your experts, all that really does is confuse our constituents. So I've tried to be on the statewide message, and my departure from Alachua County has stayed in lines with when they depart from the state message. But Mr. Manager, Dallas, you want to take what the potential ramifications could be of Newberry lifting our state of emergency while the state and the county are still under it?
Mr. Mayor, being within a state of emergency does a couple of things for the city. To your point, there are financial implications. The nation's emergency response is predicated on a national level being under the house of FEMA. And then beneath that, there's state level, which is EMS, Emergency Management Services, right? Yeah, DEM. And then beneath that are the counties. And then beneath that are the cities. So often during hurricane events, you see things that aren't nationwide states of emergency. They're localized. So if you have a big enough event, you'll see the FEMA declare a state of a disaster or a state of emergency within a region. And then those states impacted might declare also, and counties and cities within that are impacted might declare as well. If you declare, one of the things where that helps you is financially, you get set up for reimbursement for FEMA. Our expenses to date related to coronavirus haven't been astronomical, but if they become something that warrant pursuing, we get 87.5% funding return on our dollars spent while we're within a state of emergency. We jeopardize that if we exit the state of emergency, potentially. I'm not saying FEMA would crack down on us, but that's one of the things when they declare a state of emergency and the state declares an emergency, we follow suit. Locally, in terms of policymaking and decisions, also, it gives staff some flexibility to make decisions that are necessary so that we can carry out work without having to convene the city commission to get decisions on entering contracts. Say we have an opportunity to do farm share again, but we need to respond quickly. Then the city manager or the mayor is authorized to enter certain contracts during a time of emergency that we aren't during non-declared states of emergency. So staff's position on this, I think after 7 weeks of being within a state of emergency, I guess one of the dangers of being in a state of emergency is will staff or a mayor take advantage of it, and I think after 7 weeks we've demonstrated that that doesn't happen, that there's discretion is being utilized. I think another part of our state of emergency is it gives the manager the ability to make decisions with regards to our utility customers to waive penalties or disconnect fees that we ordinarily can't do because they're required by ordinance. So those to me are the advantages. I share the mayor's concern. I urge the city commission to adopt this because I think it puts the city in the best position to seek reimbursement and not have all these expenses related, I shouldn't say all these, expenses related to coronavirus 100% on our citizens' nickel.
Commissioner McKinley?
Yeah, I'm in agreement. And Mr. Mayor, I've got to put my personal thoughts and aside on this and do what's right for Newberry. And I certainly understand where some of the other commissioners are coming from, but if this at all, I don't want to be so dogmatic in this that it hurts Newberry. And I think that's what I've got to look out for. And so I will be voting to extend this. I feel like it's that important. Again, there are things that I wish I could change on a national, state, and county level. But as of right now, it is what it is. I just don't want to vote to send a message and put Newberry in jeopardy. And so that's my 2 cents.
Thank you. Commissioner Farnsworth.
What are the benefits of not adopting this?
What are the benefits of not adopting it?
Yes.
I mean, I think that Commissioner Martin and Coleman have hit what I would say is the only benefit, right? Is it does send that message. It says Newberry is objecting to the emergency. We're objecting to the way this is being handled, and we're opting out. I think that, and some people may not see that as an advantage, but I think that's, and I give it to either Commissioner Martin or Coleman to lob another advantage. To me, I just don't see the upside to voting out of it. It keeps us in line with the governor, everything that the manager just said. And we've been in the state of emergency for 7 weeks, and Newberry has not lost our reason, acted irrationally. We've managed to act practically and reasonably throughout the entire thing.
Will the city offices be able to open back to their normal way of doing their business?
Well, whether Newberry opts in or out, we're still bound by the governor and the county's state of emergency. So it would be it'd be a almost purely symbolic act out of it. It wouldn't change necessarily anything that we're able or not able to do.
Okay.
Commissioner Norfleet, do you want to weigh in here before we make it back around to a second round of any other commissioner comments, or are you just enjoying the conversation?
I'm listening, but I got a question. If businesses in Newberry are not fully complying with the county's ordinance, is the county or the sheriff doing any enforcement on that, or is it left solely to the city of Newberry to enforce?
The way that the county wrote the order is they empowered each municipality to enforce it inside their jurisdiction. Now, they left the door open. They offered that if any municipality asks the county to help them with enforcement, they certainly would come in. But I was just on a meeting with the county manager, and she said that she is distinctly not going to go inside the bounds of municipality and seek to enforce anything without the city being right there next to her. Right now, all of the municipalities, with the exception of Gainesville, have taken the tack that we're going to do the best we can to help businesses and residents understand the order and the reasons behind the order, but we simply lack the resources to do anything other than that.
Right. I wouldn't have no appetite to enforce any of it myself, but I was just asking the question.
Sure. Okay, does Commissioner Coleman or Commissioner Martin, did you want to respond to any of that or make an argument for an advantage beyond the message that it sends?
I mean, I fully expect this to pass, and I do recognize that it has negligible effect one way or the other. It's not my intent to say that this is my personal beef and I am making the stand and at the expense of the city. That's no way, shape, or form is that accurate. However, the very idea of FEMA is not constitutional. If you want to get down into the nuts and bolts of it, and that's probably a discussion for another day.
Yeah, let's keep that on another day.
I understand. But also, our charge from my seat on the dais on behalf of the city is we are not an extension of the county. We are not here to do their bidding in any way, shape, or form. And to their credit, they're not really asking us to do that. So I don't want it to be perceived that we are either. But at some point, I just feel that this is the best direction for the city. I don't take it as a personal stand, and others disagree with me. It sounds like my pastor is disagreeing with me. I'm okay. We're going to be friends when this is all over with. Whichever way it goes, I don't take it personally at all.
Okay. Commissioner Coleman, are you willing to go along with the state of emergency to be in line with the governor and look for another way to symbolically send a message after this? I don't know what that means. Are you on mute? Is this sign language? What are you doing here?
This mouse, I think the battery's going dead on it. We already have a state of emergency, and this is not a personal. I don't see a big advantage of where financially of where we're going to be at. This is, once again, it's not personal, but it's time. It's time for this to be over, and let's get back to work. And I know this city state of emergency is not that, but I'm ready for this to end. And personally, that is personal, but it's time for it to be over with. And once I'm still firm, I'm not going to vote for this.
Okay. Any other commissioner comments? Are we ready to entertain a motion?
Mr. Mayor,
You already read it into the you read it into the record, right?
I have not done.
You not? Well, Rich, read the resolution into the record for us, please.
But I appreciate everybody staying on task with the discussion. Resolution 2020-20, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Newberry, Florida, extending the state of general emergency for the City of Newberry pursuant to Section 252.38, subsection 2, Florida statutes due to the threat of the COVID-19 virus, providing for waiver of procedures and formalities, delegating authority, and providing an effective date.
All right. Thank you, Rich. Keeping me on track. So since we didn't have the resolution, I'm assuming we don't have a motion already on the floor. So I did miss that part. Is anybody ready to make a motion for resolution 2020?
Move to approve.
I have a motion to approve from Commissioner Farnsworth and a second from Commissioner McKinley. Okay. I have a motion properly seconded on the floor to approve resolution 2020, which extends Newberry state of emergency in line with what the governor just extended for 60 days. Ours goes for 7 more days. Any further questions or comments from the commission on this resolution? Commissioner Farnsworth.
Yeah, I agree with Commissioner Coleman, Commissioner Martin. We all want this to be over with and in the past and get back to normal, everybody get back to work and that. But at this point in time, it's not going to happen that way. The fact that this can only benefit the city and not actually hurt it, I see no reason why we should not continue the state of emergency.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Farnsworth. Any further questions or comments from the commission? Okay, then we're going to move to public comment. Again, a reminder that we have about a 20-second delay for our YouTube feed. So if you're watching us on YouTube, the phone number is on your screen now. Call in and we're going to give a few seconds to make sure we don't miss any public comment. Dallas, do we have anybody in the waiting room with their hand raised?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, if there is no public comment, there's no further comments from the commission. We'll move to a vote. Commissioner Coleman.
Yay. I mean, stop.
It's too late.
Nay.
Was that a nay?
That's a nay.
Nay. Commissioner McKinley.
Yay.
Commissioner Farnsworth.
Yay.
Commissioner Martin.
No.
Commissioner Norfleet.
No.
Okay, motion fails 3-2 with Commissioner McKinley and Commissioner Farnsworth in dissent. That will move us to the May City Commission meeting schedule, which is Memorial Day conflict. We have, Mike, you're going to take us through the conflict?
Correct. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is one we do annually. Our city commission meetings are the fourth Monday of the month, the second one of the month, and that always coincides with Memorial Day. And we ask the city commission to consider, sometimes we ask them to, if we don't have business items, that we could just not have the meeting or to postpone it to a new night. Staff feels like there are a couple of items that we need to discuss, and staff recommends that we move it to Tuesday, May 26th.
Okay. So we have a recommendation to move it to May 26th because we do have some items that we need to address. Any questions or comments about staff's proposal?
That's fine with me. I don't have anything on my schedule that night.
Rich, do we need that in a motion, or can we just have a head nod? Rich, you're muted. But I believe you're saying
A motion, please, Mr. Mayor.
Move to approve.
I have a motion to approve moving the date. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from, who was that? Commissioner Norfleet?
McKinley.
From Commissioner Norfleet.
Commissioner McKinley?
Yeah, it was seconded by
Commissioner
him.
McKinley made the second? I'm asking who made the second? Commissioner McKinley.
McKinley.
So I have a
Yes.
motion from Commissioner Coleman, a second from Commissioner Kinley to move the date. Questions or comments from the commission?
Same time, right?
Same time. Okay, hearing nothing from the commissioners, let's move to public comment. Coming up onto your screen shortly will be a phone number you can call in if you want to talk about moving our next scheduled commission to not conflict with Memorial Day. Give a few seconds. Okay, Dallas, do we have anybody in the waiting room?
No, sir.
Okay. We have no public in the waiting room. We'll move back to the commission for a vote. Commissioner Coleman,
Aye.
Commissioner McKinley,
Aye.
Commissioner Farnsworth,
Aye.
Commissioner Martin,
Aye.
Commissioner Norfleet.
Aye.
Motion passed unanimously. And that takes us to the State Housing Initiative Program, SHIP. And Dallas, are you taking us through this one, or is it Mike still?
It is me, Mr. Mayor.
All right, Dallas, take it away.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. As you know, the city of Newberry applied for a community development block grant, CDBG HR Housing Rehabilitation Grant. We received $700,000 through that program to rehabilitate and rehab homes in our area. However, the need for rehabilitation exceeds that. The state provides SHIP funding to the counties, large municipalities for these sorts of programs. So we applied for a grant from the county for $40,000, which will allow us to finish 3 more homes underneath our community development block grant. So before you tonight is a contract authorizing the money to come to the city. I do believe the city attorney has a couple of comments to the contract. But initially, this contract allows the city to receive $40,000 in grant funding from the county.
Thank you, Dallas. Yes, I had an opportunity to go through this contract actually today with Dave Forziano, county attorney. And this is their, as you can imagine, their form contract for this grant program. So there's really limited ability for the city to make substantial changes, but we were able to propose a handful of things that he was on board with, namely that in the default provision in Section 9, there was some language in there that gave the county the discretion to determine when the provider, and the provider in this case would be the city of Newberry, has materially failed to comply with the grant program and the terms in this contract. And he agreed to strike that language, and just so that it says that if the provider materially fails. And that then leaves it more as a question of fact for a jury or a judge to make the determination rather than completely at the county's mercy on that. So that gave us a little bit better level of comfort. We also, there was a one-way non-waiver of the sovereign immunity provisions in favor of the county. And he agreed to make that a mutual provision, which obviously only makes sense in a contract like this when the provider is actually another government entity. And then there was just some other cleanup work. There were references to contractors and in certain sections of the contract where the provider is actually entering into contracts. It really, those were misnomers, and it should have been consistently referring to the provider as the contracting party, again, us. That said, I will say when we get to finalizing the contracts with the contractor, we do want to make sure that those contracts are consistent with and incorporate many of the same terms that we find in this contract. It's a one-year contract, takes us through June of 2021. There's some standard record keeping obligations that we have. We have to hold on to our documentation for a 6-year period. So there's just a number of things like that that we'll just have to make sure we are crossing our T's, dotting our I's, and we have all those contract commitments fulfilled.
Okay. Dallas, does that conclude everything the commission needs to know?
Yes, Mr. Moore, the only thing I would add to Rich's comments is my understanding that most of the contract provisions that he's speaking to in terms of dotting our T's and crossing our I's are already in our contract for the CDBG grant money. So it's not any additional new restrictions on the city above and beyond what we're already being restricted.
Are you looking for the commission to take action, or is this just an update?
I need the city commission to authorize the mayor and the city manager to execute all documents as related to the SHIP grant.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments from the commission on the SHIP program? Okay, then I'll entertain a motion at this time to authorize the mayor or manager.
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Martin.
Second.
A second from Commissioner Coleman. Okay, I have a motion to approve the manager working this out. Properly seconded. Does the commission have any questions or comments on the motion on the floor? If not, we will go to public comment. On your screen now, you will see a phone number coming up. If you'd like to talk about the SHIP program, please dial that number. We're going to give a few seconds to let the public chime in. Okay, now, so we have anybody?
No, sir.
All right, then we will come back to the commission for a vote. Commissioner Coleman?
Aye.
Commissioner McKinley?
Aye.
Commissioner Farnsworth?
Aye.
Commissioner Martin?
Aye.
Commissioner Norfleet?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously, and that will wrap us up and send us to comments. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a few. We are winding down staff's development of budget. We've gotten most of our budget submitted by our departments. Dallas and I'll be doing our thing for the next few weeks, and then we'll start our public workshops, or we intend for public workshops. They may be via Zoom with the City Commission in June. I would say that the biggest asterisk that we have going into budget has to do with our revenues. Right now, it's just too soon for us to tell what impact the COVID-19 is having on our revenues. As you all know, much of our revenues are related to sales tax and tourism, probably 6 figures worth of revenues, maybe in the mid 6 figures. It could be a really big hit, or it could be, yeah, that hurts, but we're going to be just fine. So, and it may be late in the summer before we know that. So we'll probably be preparing the bare bones budget, believing a worst case budget. And then if we get good news that it's not going to be as negative as we anticipated, then we can add a few more projects into the budget. Tomorrow, the County Board of County Commissioners, the BOCC, is meeting. On their agenda is our annexation, the one that was recently approved on second reading. Staff is presenting 4 items to the commission that staff believes doesn't comport with state law. And we've asked to speak at the meeting. We're tuning in, and we'll let you know if the county commission objects to our annexation. Also, the county's agricultural center site plan has been submitted to staff. It's going to Planning and Zoning Board the 1st of June, and then will be presented to the City Commission presumptively the 2nd meeting in June. That's the last stop on that project before it is out the door and just fully under construction, and then and operation by Alachua County. And final note is our AMI bids that we've been talking about for some, the AMI program for some 24 months. Bids are due later this week. Now it may take 4 to 6 weeks for us to evaluate this pretty sophisticated bid proposals, but it's a big milestone for us to get these proposals in and then make a recommendation to the City Commission. That concludes my comments, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Mr. Attorney?
We have nothing, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk?
I have nothing, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Let's go in the same order we've been voting, I guess. Mr. Coleman, you got any comments for us tonight?
I've just been asked a lot about West Fest. Are they going to reschedule later, like August or whatever? Any update on that?
Mr. Manager?
I'd be happy to give you an update on that. West Fest has tentatively been rescheduled for Saturday, June the 28th. It's the last Saturday in June. And we are hoping that we can move it forward to that day. But as we are closing in on, there's a drop dead date where you have to start spending money to make it happen with advertising and securing vendors and things of that. We're rapidly approaching that, and we're not going to spend any money unless we have a high level of confidence that the event will actually happen in June. If we miss the June deadline, we will start looking for a fall date, or we will get creative and see if we can't pull off a virtual event that will do the city, its residents, and also very importantly, all of our sponsors, as well as a live event would.
Okay. I have nothing else.
Thank you, Commissioner Coleman. Commissioner Farnsworth, I think, was next in line.
I have nothing at this time, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner McKinley?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Martin?
Well, I understand that the emergency order is not renewed. I understand that everything pretty much exactly remains the same. And Commissioner Farnsworth's last comment about that is certainly well taken. We can continue to educate the public on the information that we get. If we get updated information, then I'll be happy to share that. This is not any attempt at grandstanding whatsoever. I don't even intend on putting anything out publicly on this issue. And this has really no effectual impact on the operation of either the citizens or the businesses here in Newberry. And if it has anything to do with regards to the authority by the city manager, if you feel like you need something addressed, I'll be the first to advocate that. And if I feel or anybody else feels that there is a desperate need to reenact an emergency order, I'll be happy to make that motion at the proper time as well. So just that's the only comment that I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Commissioner Norfleet?
No comments. Thank you.
All right. I guess my only comment is, again, I want to thank mainly the residents of the city of Newberry and the businesses of the city of Newberry for all that you guys have sacrificed and done to help get us through this situation. I think it is because of your voluntary cooperation why the state of Florida is one of the best states to be in right now, when it had all the markers to be one of the worst. It's really because people making good decisions that mattered for their family and made sense for their family. So I want to thank everybody for doing that. I understand that emotions are high right now and stress levels are high right now. And that certainly, worked its way into some of our communications, even here in the city of Newberry. But, being a part of many meetings in other municipalities in larger county, I can tell you that Newberry is head and shoulders above the rest when it comes to having civil disputes and disagreements and still being able to do that respectfully. So I would, echo Commissioner Martin's comments that in effect, nothing changes. And I would just ask the commission that as soon as we have something that does actually change in the city of Newberry in terms of day-to-day operations, that you guys be willing to come back and reconsider this motion. I think there's certainly perhaps some day-to-day things that may have to change tomorrow because of this. And if there's something I miss, I don't want to portray it any other way. The manager's free to come back and correct me. But as long as we all know and the public knows that as soon as anything changes, you guys are willing to stop on a dime and come back and reconsider it, I think that's the best that we can do. And with that, I will open it up to, I'm sorry, I did let the city manager have an opportunity to weigh in. Is there anything in day-to-day operations that's going to change tomorrow?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I believe there will be.
Okay.
As I indicated when I was outlining what we saw as the benefits, I mentioned that staff made a decision to waive utility penalties and disconnects. And I think that if the commission rescinds the emergency order, I'm not exactly sure how that impacts it. We may very well, we're at that time of the month. I mean, at the end of this week, utility bills are going to be due. And I'm not sure if that decision still stands or we need to get the city commission to weigh in on that. And I'm not sure if there's some other decisions that are similar to that that I might not be thinking of right now, that when we get into the middle of business day tomorrow, say, oh crap, I wish I'd have thought of that last night.
Rich, can you help us here a little bit? We have, announced to the public already that we are going to be working with them on utility bills and those kinds of things. We've said, we understand a lot of you are laid off. We're gonna waive these. Does, even with the lifting of the emergency order, can Mr. New unilaterally carry out those promises to the citizens? Or do we need to have a virtual meeting every night this week to vote on whatever comes in that moment?
Well, my initial thought on it is that he would have discretion depending on the size of the bill. I think it would be something that would be within his day-to-day authority to some extent, or to a large extent with respect to most of the bills. That said, it would not hurt anything for the commission if they feel so inclined tonight to entertain a motion that would very clearly give him some discretion to go forward on that basis with respect to, that particular issue. Now, of course, if there is another issue that Mr. Manager confronts that we're not anticipating as we sit here today, we'd have to evaluate that on an issue by issue basis and determine whether that is something that would need to come back in front of the commission.
Okay. What is the flavor of the commission? Does someone want to go ahead and make a motion? I mean, we have one issue that we can see right, the timing here with the bills coming due is going to have an effect immediately. Does anyone want to make a motion that even without a declared state of emergency, we give staff the ability to make these kinds of decisions to uphold the promises that we've already kept? Or does anyone want to just say, you know what, the state of emergency is cleaner, let's go back to that? Now, that would take someone from the majority party of the winning vote. Commissioner McKinley.
I'm very reluctant with what I'm about to say. But I think in parliamentary procedure, I think it is correct that I could put a motion to reconsider the state of emergency. Is it proper for me to do that?
Only someone from the winning three could put a motion to reconsider. So if you're in the dissenting, you can't proffer that motion. It would take Commissioner Coleman, Commissioner Martin, or Commissioner Norfleet to offer a motion to reconsider.
Understood. Thank you.
You could make the motion to give staff the ability to get through this utility cycle. And I'm just not sure exactly how the wording of that motion plays out.
I'm just afraid that there's going to be some other issues also. And if it comes down to it, I'll make that motion. But I'm afraid we may have a few more things besides just the utilities. But I understand the procedure here. So yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner Martin.
I'll be happy to make a motion to extend the administrative privileges that were afforded under the emergency order to the city manager until we have time to entertain it, possibly in 2 weeks at our next meeting.
Let me see if I get a second on that. And then I think the manager had a point he wanted to weigh in. So I have a second from Commissioner Coleman. Okay, so I have a motion properly seconded, motion made by Commissioner Martin, seconded by Commissioner Coleman to extend the administrative privileges that he had under the state of emergency when it comes to utility billing. Did I get that motion correct, Commissioner Martin?
Fair enough.
Mr. Manager, was there anything else you wanted to add in? You think that? Okay.
That would be, I hope that's sufficient.
And honestly, I'm not, I didn't phrase it. Let me back up. I did not phrase it to specifically speak to the utility itself.
Okay.
I'm fine with the
broader
administrative privileges as a whole.
Okay. Rich, how's the ground we're on now? Is it steady or is it sinking?
I apologize. Scott just walked in and I was bringing him up to speed on this issue. So I missed that last dialogue.
Hey, Scott, my intent was to extend the administrative privileges afforded the city manager that we had under the emergency order.
I think that motion is fine. You're in a commissioner comment period right now. So my suggestion would be to suspend your rules that really we're not supposed to be making the motions in commissioner comment period. So the first motion would be to suspend your rules of procedure for the moment and take that up for a vote. And then secondarily, then put your motion on the floor, which allows for any administrative, because we're in an emergency situation, you can allow for the administration of the application of any emergency powers as necessary for the city manager. So I think that's the tenor and intent of your motion, Commissioner Martin.
Okay, so Scott, before we move further there, I mean, I think this is fine, but I think we also need to ask the question, what does this motion do? And in an emergency order, we have clearly defined rules, as clear as we can make them, and in a termination date. When does this motion to give the manager emergency powers without an emergency declaration, when does that end? Do we have to write that up? I mean, we have a resolution here that people can read for the emergency order. They know what the rules are. They get it. I kind of feel like we're doing this on the fly, and I have no expectation that the city manager would take advantage of this. I think it would be fine, but I also think this is a much stranger way of going about what the emergency order does itself.
Right. I think it's under the statute, the authority that you grant the city manager is for a 7-day period. So that's the time frame that is renewed. And I believe our last resolution that we passed allowed the city manager to extend that time as a part of his authority under the resolution. So I think he has the ability to do that. I don't think he's been really exercising that authority independent of the commission. That's why it continues to come up periodically. So, I think what I understand Commissioner Martin's motion to be that he would continue to be allowed the authority under that resolution to enact any measures necessary in the state of emergency. So we have a state of emergency issued by the governor. The statute allows that to be continued on a 7-day period. You're granting that authority to your city manager to continue that. He can extend that until the next commission meeting so that it doesn't we don't have to have another meeting in 7 days. And he has the power to, in a state of emergency, I think he has significant administrative powers because it is a state of emergency to allow for the city to not exercise shutoffs like it normally would under your normal procedures. So under your statutory or your ordinance provisions, if someone is delinquent on the payment of the utility bills, then he would not have any discretionary authority normally, or the city would not have any discretionary authority normally, other than to shut off utility services to individuals at home. We're in an emergency. People don't have income. They've been in a stay-at-home situation for a long period of time. And so what you're doing and what the Commissioner Martin's motion does is it allows him that authority to provide relief to citizens that normally would not be there.
So this motion will allow us to continue to operate in a state of emergency without a declaration. Commissioner Coleman, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
All right, so here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna make a motion that I'm making two. First, to get out of the standard parliamentary procedure that we're in because we're in comments. Right. Number two, I'm gonna waive on this, which is, I guess, giving us 2 more weeks of it. But that's, I mean, I'm gonna look at this through this. But I don't know if I'm allowed to make the main motion unless Tim drops his.
But anyone
from supersede anything, and that motion is to go back in and to stay in emergency order for until the next meeting.
Okay, let's deal with each motion separately. And the first one I think we all agree on. So I have a motion to suspend the rules of procedure to allow us to address this question, even though we're in comments. Do I have a second on that motion?
Second.
I have a second from Commissioner Farnsworth. Any questions or comments on the motion on the floor to suspend our usual rules of procedure and allow ourselves to make a motion during the comment section from the commission? Hearing none, we'll move to public comment. Does the public have any questions or comments on the move to suspend our usual procedures? And again, we're going to give a few seconds here. Let folks chime in.
Big TV for this next meeting. Do we need to get a new microphone or not? Camera, that's what it is.
Okay, Dallas, do we have anybody in the waiting room with their hand up?
No, sir.
Okay, we're going to come back to the commission for a vote. And I don't have my cheat sheet, so I'm going to start with Commissioner Coleman on the first motion to, there it is. Thank you, Commissioner Coleman.
Aye.
Commissioner McKinley.
Aye.
Commissioner Farnsworth.
Aye.
Commissioner Martin,
No.
Commissioner Norfleet.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes 4-1 with Commissioner Martin in dissent. That motion was to suspend the rules of procedure to allow us to now entertain Commissioner Coleman's.
Pardon me. Let me back up. I didn't realize we were under that one.
Oh, so you're an aye?
Yes.
Okay.
Unanimous, Judy, please.
That
Okay, got it.
changed Commissioner Martin to an aye. That motion passes unanimously. Now we can have a conversation about how we want to proceed. Commissioner Coleman, you are in the middle of a second motion to reconsider. Is that your motion?
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and reconsider for the through till the next meeting only.
Okay, I have a motion to reconsider. Do I have a second?
Second.
Was that Commissioner Farnsworth? Yes, Commissioner Farnsworth, second. Okay, now I have a motion to reconsider the motion to enter into Resolution 2020. Properly seconded. Are there any final comments from the commission on this motion on the floor? Commissioner Norfleet.
Don't the city already have in place ways to help people with hardship with their utility bills and other whatnots?
Mr. Mayor, do you want to take that? I can answer it, but you can as well.
Mr. Mayor, I believe that on an individual case, on an individual customer walking in, I certainly have that authority. I think that the way our ordinances and our policies are written is that I don't have the ability to make that a citywide policy. Also don't think I would have the ability to do things. We put the utility assistance program back in place based on a discussion with finance director, me, and the mayor. And we put in place what I think is a very effective program. Our finance director has also figured out a way that eventually will allow us to leverage our money. So instead of it just being 100% our money, he leveraged it, or our program leveraged it, so it was 50-50. Now he's got a plan to leverage that further, so it's going to be 25% ratepayer money or taxpayer money and 75% other people's money. Those are the flexible types of programs that we put into place during an emergency situation without consideration by the city commission.
Does that answer your question, Commissioner Norfleet?
Yeah, I think so. What's the leveraging against?
Well, on that specific program, the way our utility assistance program has always worked in the past was we took ratepayer and or taxpayer dollars and paid people's utility bills. So the way that we set up the program this time under the Coronavirus Relief Fund, the Coronavirus Community Relief Fund, was we were matching dollar for dollar donations from the community. And we've raised maybe $4,000 or $5,000 through that effort, $3,500. And then the next set of wheels that we put in place is that we have worked this program where we're partnering with, who are we partnering with, Dallas? Community Action Agency out of Gainesville to do a further 50-50 match. So again, your question was, does the city manager have authority to work with those? And the answer to that is, I believe that I have the ability to do it on an individual basis, but I don't have the ability to do it as a citywide policy without commission authorization.
Understood.
Does that answer your question, Commissioner Norfleet?
I have one more.
Okay.
How many people have been affected in the city that y'all had to help in that situation? Roughly.
I'm going to let Dallas chime in. He knows those numbers better than me. He reviewed it with me this afternoon.
Mr. Mayor, last month in April, when we first waived penalties, we waived penalties for approximately 500 of our customers. Come disconnection day, we were up about 6% in our accounts receivable from where we normally are. We have about 120 people on the disconnection list. Typically, a disconnection day has about 50. As of today, we still have over close to 30 customers who haven't been able to make payment. above and beyond those who've contacted us. We have about 20 customers who've contacted us who need help with their utility bill. And like I said, we have close to 30 who haven't contacted us, who haven't been disconnected yet. And then we do have utility bills are due again next Monday. Currently, we have 0 people on the disconnection list, and we've had close to 50.
And I can tell you that for, I'm not sure what percentage it is, but for a large part of the private funds that have been donated, we use those private funds to purchase gift cards from Hitchcock's, and we distributed those to the churches in Newberry to distribute to parishioners that they knew, or anyone that they knew had been laid off or was in need. I believe that all of those gift cards have now been distributed, but I couldn't tell you how many families got them. I think we put the gift cards in increments of $25, if my memory serves, but it was up to each pastor to give, as much as he could to any family that he identified. So, and we made that clear that we wanted the funds to get directly into the hands, and we wanted to make sure that we were using people that could identify as getting to the right spot. Commissioner Norfleet, does that finish your questions?
Yep.
Okay, Commissioner Coleman.
Well, I'm gonna use that word capitulate again. You ready, Mayor?
All right.
Well, I guess I have, but the understanding way this was going was that we're pretty much getting out of the emergency order and then turn around and giving the city manager anyway all the power back, which is fine with me, but then just why not just stay in the emergency order then? So I think that's the smartest way to go, but I think seriously we need to look at this. If there's no change at our next meeting after Memorial, I believe that's after Memorial Day, we need to really look at this.
Well, I want to thank you, Commissioner Coleman, for making the motion. I know that I don't think that there was any expectation that this wasn't going to pass. So I don't think that staff or myself gave any mental energy to trying to figure out the ramifications of ending this. Now we certainly will, and we'll have much better answers for this situation at the next meeting. Any more thoughts or considerations from the commission? Okay, we'll go to public comment, and this is just the motion to reconsider. It's not the motion to approve. And if you're watching at home, there's a phone number on your screen now. We're going to give you a few seconds to dial in. I think at the next meeting, we're going to have some background music that comes on and plays during this intermittent period. Thank you. That's pretty good. All right, Dallas, do we have anyone in the waiting room with their hand up?
No, sir.
Okay, and we will come back to a vote by the commission. Remember, this is just a vote to reconsider. It's not a vote on the resolution itself. Scott,
it does the same thing.
Yeah,
parliamentary wise, it does the same thing.
Okay, so can we, Scott, you're good with it?
You don't have to do two.
I'm good with that too. Commissioner Coleman?
Aye.
Commissioner McKinley?
Aye.
Commissioner Farnsworth?
Aye.
Commissioner Martin?
No.
Commissioner Norfleet?
No.
Motion passes 3-2 with Commissioner Martin and Commissioner Norfleet in dissent. Okay, we will move back to our standard operating procedures. Rich, did we need to read that resolution back in? Is that what you're talking about?
We do.
Go ahead.
It's Resolution 2020-20, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Newberry, Florida, extending the state of general emergency for the City of Newberry pursuant to Section 252.38, subsection 2 Florida statutes, due to the threat of the COVID-19 virus, providing for waiver of procedures and formalities, delegating authority, and providing an effective date.
And I bet you'd like me to ask everybody for their vote again, huh?
You know it.
Commissioner Coleman?
Boy, wouldn't I mess things up if I... Aye.
Commissioner McKinley?
Aye.
Do we need another motion?
Do we still have the same motion, Rich?
For purposes of the record, go ahead and state the motion again.
Okay, the motion is from Commissioner Coleman to reconsider.
I got
And the
that.
second was from Commissioner Farnsworth.
The second, yes.
Okay. And now our vote. Are we all ready? We're all on the same page?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Coleman,
Aye.
Commissioner McKinley,
Aye.
Commissioner Farnsworth,
Aye.
Commissioner Martin,
No.
Commissioner Norfleet.
No.
Motion passes 3-2 with Commissioner Martin and Norfleet in dissent. And that brings us back into our standard operating procedure. Thank you all for working through that process with us. And we are to citizen comment.
Yep.
I had my comment, I think. If not, it's gone out of my head at this point. So that we're going to move to public comment, and we'll wait a few seconds to see if anybody from the public is joining us. While we wait for any potential public comment, I'd like to go ahead and wish Miss Judy a happy birthday a little bit ahead of time.
Thank
She's
you.
gonna be a very young old. We hope that she has a beautiful birthday this
Thank you.
weekend. Is that right?
Yes,
All right. Well, happy birthday.
Happy birthday,
Thank you.
Judy.
thank you.
Okay.
Happy
now-
birthday, Miss Judy, and happy belated Mother's Day.
Thank you very much.
Happy birthday to you.
Wow. Commissioner Farnsworth. Dallas, do we have anybody from the public here with us?
No, sir.
All right. Well, being as we have no public comment, I now officially call this meeting adjourned.